The air in the lawyer's office smelled like old paper and lemon furniture polish, a scent that made my stomach turn even though I'd never been here before. Maybe it was the occasion that made everything feel wrong. The fact that Mom had been gone for only 8 days, and here we were, sitting in burgundy leather chairs that creaked every time someone shifted their weight, waiting to hear how she divided up her life into neat legal parcels. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, that persistent buzz that gets into your skull and stays there, and I could feel the cold from the air conditioning raising goosebumps on my arms despite the cardigan I'd pulled on that morning. My sister Claire sat to my left, her perfume, something floral and expensive, wafting over every time she moved. She'd been dabbing at her eyes with a tissue since we arrived, though I noticed the tissue never actually touched her carefully applied mascara. To my right, my brother Marcus drummed his fingers on the armrest, a nervous habit he'd had since childhood, the soft tap-tap-tap keeping time with my own racing heartbeat. Dad should have been here, but he'd passed 3 years ago, a heart attack that took him in his sleep, and Mom had never really recovered from that loss. The lawyer, a thin man named Gerald Hutchins with wire-rimmed glasses that kept sliding down his nose, cleared his throat and opened a manila folder. The sound of papers rustling filled the room, and I found myself holding my breath, though I couldn't say why. Mom had always been fair with us, almost to a fault. Every birthday present was measured, every Christmas gift carefully equalized. There was no reason to expect anything different now. I was wrong. Mr. Hutchins began reading in that particular monotone that lawyers seem to cultivate, words about sound mind and last testament washing over me until he got to the specific bequests. To Claire, the house in Vermont where we'd spent every summer of our childhood, the one with the wraparound porch and the lake view that turned golden at sunset. I felt Claire stiffen beside me, heard her sharp intake of breath. That house was worth at least $700,000, maybe more. To Marcus, the investment portfolio, stocks and bonds that Dad had built over 30 years of careful planning. Another $500,000 easily. And to me, her youngest, the one who'd stayed in town, who'd had dinner with her every Sunday, who'd held her hand in the hospital during those final days when the cancer ate away at her from the inside. To me she left her jewelry, some savings bonds, and a sealed envelope with my name written on it in her shaking handwriting. The inequality was staggering, impossible to ignore. I felt my face grow hot, that prickly sensation that comes right before tears, but I swallowed them down. Claire wouldn't look at me. Marcus had stopped drumming his fingers. The silence in the room pressed against my eardrums like I was underwater. Mr. Hutchins slid the envelope across his massive oak desk. It whispered against the wood, a sound that seemed too loud in the quiet. My name, Olivia, was written in blue ink, the letters shaky but unmistakably Mom's handwriting from these last few months. My hands trembled as I picked it up. The paper was thick, expensive, the kind Mom used for important correspondence. It was sealed with actual wax, red wax with her initial pressed into it, like something from another century. "Break the seal now," Mr. Hutchins said, his voice gentler than it had been. "Your mother's instructions were specific. You're to read it here, in our presence." I looked at Claire, then Marcus, searching their faces for some clue about what was happening, but they looked as confused as I felt. My fingers felt thick and clumsy as I worked my thumbnail under the wax seal. It cracked with a sound like a breaking bone, and I unfolded the letter. Mom's handwriting filled 2 pages, front and back, the words cramped and urgent. "My dearest Olivia," it began, and I could hear her voice in my head, that slight rasp she'd developed in her last year. "If you're reading this, I'm gone, and I'm so sorry I didn't have the courage to tell you this while I was alive. I'm sorry for many things, but mostly I'm sorry for the lie that your whole life has been built on." My vision blurred. I blinked hard, forcing myself to focus on the words. "You are not my biological daughter. You are not Claire's sister, not Marcus's sister, not by blood. 29 years ago, your father and I adopted you when you were 3 days old. We never told you because we loved you so completely, so entirely, that the fact of your adoption seemed irrelevant. You were ours. You are ours. Nothing will ever change that." The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the desk, feeling the smooth would grain under my fingers, needing something solid to hold on to. The humming of the fluorescent lights grew louder, or maybe it was just the rushing of blood in my ears. "But I'm telling you now because you deserve to know the truth, and because the inequality in my will is not what it appears to be. The house, the investments, those are family assets, passed down through generations. They belong to the bloodline. What I'm leaving you is different, and in many ways more valuable." I couldn't breathe. The air conditioning was too cold, the room too small, Claire's perfume too strong. I kept reading, the words swimming on the page. Your biological mother's name was Sarah Brennan. She was 17 when she had you, a senior in high school with her whole life ahead of her. She made the hardest choice a person can make, giving you up so you could have the life she couldn't provide. I promised her I would love you as my own, and I have. God knows I have. But Sarah left something for you, something she gave me the day we took you home from the hospital. She made me promise to keep it safe, to give it to you when the time was right. I kept it in a safety deposit box all these years. The key is taped to the back of this letter. Box number 417 at First National Bank, the branch on Maple Street. I'm sorry I'm not there to hold your hand through this, sweetheart. I'm sorry for so many things. But please know that every moment of being your mother was a gift. You were wanted. You were loved. You are loved, even now, even from wherever I am. The letter was signed with just Mom, and below that, a postscript. The house and the money don't matter, Olivia. What matters is who you are, and you are extraordinary. Don't let this change that. I turned the letter over with shaking hands. Taped to the back was a small silver key, the kind that fits safety deposit boxes. It was cool against my fingers when I peeled it free. The room was absolutely silent. I could hear Marcus breathing, quick and shallow. Claire had stopped crying, her tissue crumpled in her fist. Mr. Hutchins was watching me with an expression that might have been sympathy, though it was hard to tell through the fog that seemed to have filled my brain. Olivia, Claire's voice cut through the silence, sharp and uncertain. What does it say? I couldn't answer. My throat had closed up, my tongue felt too thick for my mouth. I handed her the letter instead, watched her eyes move across the lines, saw the exact moment comprehension hit. Her face went pale, then flushed red, then pale again. She passed it to Marcus without a word. Marcus read it twice. I watched his lips move slightly, forming the words silently. When he looked up at me, his eyes were different, like he was seeing a stranger. Maybe he was. He started, then stopped. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed. This is a lot to process. That was the understatement of the century, maybe of my entire life. I stood up, my legs unsteady beneath me, the chair scraping against the floor with a sound like a scream. I need to go, I said, or tried to say. My voice came out as barely a whisper. Mr. Hutchins stood too, his chair rolling backward and hitting the wall with a soft thump. There are some papers you'll need to sign, he said, but they can wait. Take your time. Take all the time you need. I walked out of that office on legs that didn't feel like mine, down a hallway that seemed to stretch forever, past framed diplomas and landscape paintings that I didn't really see. Behind me, I heard Claire call my name, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. If I stopped, I would shatter into 1,000 pieces right there on the beige carpet. The parking lot was bright with afternoon sun, the heat hitting me like a physical force after the frigid air conditioning. It was late September, that time of year when summer hasn't quite let go but autumn is already reaching out with cool fingers. The asphalt smelled like tar and gasoline, and somewhere nearby someone was grilling, the scent of charcoal and meat smoke drifting on the breeze. Normal smells. A normal day for everyone else in the world. I sat in my car, a 10-year-old Honda that rattled when it went over 40, and stared at the key in my hand. It was so small, so ordinary. How could something so small hold the power to rewrite my entire existence? My phone buzzed in my purse. Then again, and again. I didn't look at it. I knew it would be Claire or Marcus or both of them, trying to figure out what to say to me, how to act around me now that I wasn't really their sister. Now that I was just someone their parents had taken in, had felt sorry for, had raised out of obligation or charity, or whatever it was that made people adopt babies. I drove home on autopilot, barely seeing the familiar streets, the stop signs, the traffic lights. My apartment was in an old building downtown, third-floor walk-up, the kind of place with radiators that clanked in winter and windows that stuck in summer. I'd lived there for 5 years, ever since I'd graduated from college with a degree in elementary education and a mountain of student loans. It was small, but it was mine, filled with things I'd chosen, books I'd read, plants I'd managed not to kill. Except now I didn't know if any of it was really mine. If I wasn't really Olivia Brennan, then who was I? The daughter of a 17-year-old girl named Sarah who'd given me away. The adopted charity case of a family that had never bothered to tell me the truth. I dropped my purse on the kitchen counter, heard my keys clatter against the tile. The apartment was stuffy, the air stale from being closed up all day. I opened a window and the sounds of the city filtered in, car horns and distant sirens, and someone's music playing too loud. Life going on like nothing had changed, like my entire world hadn't just been pulled out from under me. The key was still in my hand. I set it on the counter next to my purse, this small silver thing that promised answers I wasn't sure I wanted. The bank would be closed now. It was almost 5 o'clock, but it would open again tomorrow. The safety deposit box had been sitting there for 29 years. It could wait one more day. Except I knew I wouldn't sleep. I knew I'd lie awake all night, staring at the ceiling, wondering what was in that box, who Sarah Brennan was, why she'd given me up, whether she'd ever thought about me over the years, whether she was still alive. My phone rang, the sound jarring in the quiet apartment. Claire's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. Marcus this time. Voicemail again. Then a text from Claire. We need to talk about this. Please call me. I turned my phone off and threw it on the couch. The refrigerator hummed in the kitchen. The upstairs neighbor's footsteps creaked across the ceiling. Outside, a dog barked, sharp and insistent. I stood in the middle of my living room, surrounded by the life I'd built, the person I'd thought I was, and felt completely untethered, like I might just float away if I didn't hold on to something. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed watching the shadows move across the ceiling as cars passed on the street below, their headlights creating shifting patterns of light and dark. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Mom's handwriting, those shaky letters spelling out the truth she'd hidden for nearly 3 decades. You are not my biological daughter. The words played on repeat in my head, a loop I couldn't escape. At some point near dawn, I must have dozed off because I woke to sunlight streaming through the gap in my curtains, warm and insistent on my face. My mouth tasted like cotton, and my eyes felt gritty. The clock on my nightstand read 8:43. The bank opened at 9. I showered, letting the hot water beat against my shoulders until the tank ran cold, then dressed in jeans and a sweater, my fingers clumsy with the buttons. The key was still on the kitchen counter where I'd left it. I picked it up, felt its weight in my palm, slipped it into my pocket. The drive to First National Bank took 12 minutes. I counted every one of them, watching the numbers on the dashboard clock tick forward. The bank was a solid brick building on the corner of Maple and 3rd, the kind of place that had been there forever, that looked like it would be there forevermore. The lobby smelled like coffee and paper money, and the teller who greeted me had a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I need to access a safety deposit box, I told her. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, too high, too tight. Box number 417. She led me through a heavy door into a room lined with small metal doors, each with a number stamped into it. The air was cooler here, drier, and very quiet. My footsteps echoed on the tile floor. She found box 417, used her key and mine together to open it, then pulled out a long metal box and carried it to a small private room. Take your time, she said, and closed the door behind her. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the box on the table. It was maybe 2 feet long, 6 inches wide, made of brushed steel that was cool to the touch. There was no lock on it now, nothing keeping me from opening it except my own fear. I sat down in the single chair, the vinyl squeaking under my weight. Took a breath. Another. Then I lifted the lid. Inside was a large manila envelope, the kind with a string closure, and on top of it, a small teddy bear, worn and faded, its fur matted in places. I picked up the bear first. It was soft, well-loved, and it smelled faintly of something I couldn't quite place, something sweet and old. There was a small tag sewn into its side. To baby girl, it read in faded ink. Love, Mama. My eyes burned. I set the bear down gently and picked up the envelope. It wasn't sealed, just wound closed with the string. Inside were papers, photographs, and another letter, this one written on lined notebook paper in round, careful handwriting. The photographs were on top. I spread them out on the table with trembling hands. A girl young, maybe 16 or 17, with long dark hair and eyes that were unmistakably the same shape as mine. She was smiling in most of them, that kind of carefree smile that belongs to people who haven't yet learned how hard life can be. In one photo she was at a beach, the wind whipping her hair around her face. In another she was sitting on a porch swing, a book open in her lap. In a third, she was visibly pregnant, her hand resting on her swollen belly, her smile more tentative, more uncertain. Sarah Brennan, my biological mother. I studied her face, looking for myself in her features. The eyes, yes. The shape of the chin. The way her mouth curved up more on one side than the other when she smiled. The letter was dated 3 days after I was born. The paper was yellowed at the edges, soft from age, and there were spots where the ink had smudged, like tears had fallen on it while it was still wet. Dear baby girl, it began. I don't know if you'll ever read this. I don't know if the people who are taking you home will ever tell you about me. But I need to write it anyway, need to tell you things while they're still fresh in my heart, before time makes them fuzzy and uncertain. I'm 17 years old. I'm supposed to be thinking about prom and college applications and what I want to be when I grow up. Instead, I'm lying in a hospital bed, my body aching from bringing you into the world, my arms empty because I've already signed the papers that say you're not mine anymore. Except you are mine. You'll always be mine, even if I never see you again after today. I felt you move inside me for 6 months. I talked to you, sang to you, promised you things I knew I couldn't keep. I held you for 20 minutes after you were born, counted your fingers and toes, memorized your face, the way your tiny hand wrapped around my finger, the small sounds you made. You have my eyes. Did anyone ever tell you that? Dark blue, almost gray. The nurse said they might change, that baby's eyes often do, but I hope they stay that color. I hope every time you look in a mirror, you see a little bit of me looking back. I'm giving you up because I love you. I know that sounds like something people say to make themselves feel better about doing a terrible thing, but it's true. I'm 17. I live in a trailer park with my mom who works 2 jobs just to keep us fed. I don't have money for diapers or formula or doctor visits. I don't have a future to give you, not the kind you deserve. The couple who's adopting you, they're good people. I met them twice. They have a big house and steady jobs, and they've been trying to have a baby for years. They cried when they saw you. They promised me they'd love you, raise you right, give you everything I can't. I made them promise something else too. I made them promise to keep this box for you, to give it to you someday when you're old enough to understand. Inside, you'll find pictures of me, so you know where you came from. You'll find your birth certificate, the original one with my name on it. You'll find the teddy bear my mom gave me when I was little, the only thing I have that's worth anything, and I want you to have it. And you'll find this letter, these words I'm writing at 3 a.m. while you sleep in the nursery down the hall, while I still have a few more hours of being your mother. I want you to know that I didn't give you up because I didn't want you. I wanted you so much it physically hurt. I still want you. I'll want you every day for the rest of my life. But wanting isn't enough. Love isn't enough. You deserve more than I can give you, and so I'm giving you the only thing I can, a chance at a better life. I hope you're happy. I hope you're loved. I hope you never feel the kind of emptiness I'm feeling right now, this hollow ache in my chest where you used to be. If you ever want to find me, I'll be waiting. I don't know where I'll be or what I'll be doing, but I'll be waiting. And if you never want to find me, if you read this and decide that the parents who raised you are your real parents, and I'm just the girl who gave birth to you, I'll understand that too. I'll be sad, but I'll understand. Be happy, baby girl. Be kind. Be brave. Be everything I couldn't be. I love you. I'll always love you. Sarah. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face, dripping off my chin onto the table. My chest felt tight, like someone was squeezing my ribs. I could barely breathe around the sobs that kept forcing their way up my throat. She'd loved me. This girl, this child really, had loved me enough to give me away. Had held me and memorized my face, and then let me go because she thought it was best for me. And Mom, the woman I'd called Mom for 29 years, had kept this promise, had kept this box safe, had waited until after she was gone to tell me the truth because she was afraid. Afraid I'd love her less. Afraid I'd leave. Afraid of losing me the way Sarah had lost me. I picked up the birth certificate. It was the original, just like Sarah had said, with her name listed as mother and the father listed as unknown. My name, the name she'd given me before the adoption, was Emma Sarah Brennan. Emma. I whispered it out loud, testing how it felt in my mouth. It felt foreign and familiar at the same time, like a word in a language I used to speak but had forgotten. There were other papers in the envelope. Medical records from the pregnancy. A copy of the adoption decree. A newspaper clipping from a local paper. A small article about the high school honor roll, and Sarah Brennan's name was highlighted in yellow. She'd been a good student. She'd had potential. And then she'd gotten pregnant, and everything had changed. I gathered everything carefully, put it all back in the envelope except for the teddy bear, which I held against my chest like a child. The teller was waiting outside the private room, her professional smile back in place. I returned the box, thanked her in a voice that didn't sound like mine, and walked out into the bright morning sunshine. The world looked different. The same buildings, the same streets, the same people walking past with their coffee cups and their phones, but different somehow, like I was seeing it all through new eyes. Emma's eyes. Olivia's eyes. I didn't know anymore. I sat in my car in the bank parking lot, the teddy bear in my lap, and finally turned my phone back on. It exploded with notifications. 17 missed calls. 23 text messages. 3 voicemails. All from Claire and Marcus. I listened to the voicemails first. Claire's voice, tight and controlled. Olivia, we need to talk. This doesn't change anything. You're still our sister. Call me back. Marcus, more uncertain. Hey, I don't really know what to say. This is weird. But Claire's right, you're still our sister. We should talk. Claire again, less controlled this time. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? We're worried. Please just let us know you're okay. I texted them both. I'm okay. I need some time. I'll call you soon. Then I sat there, staring at the teddy bear, at its worn fur and button eyes, and made a decision. I needed to find Sarah Brennan. I needed to know if she was still waiting, if she'd meant what she'd written in that letter, if she still thought about me the way I was suddenly, desperately thinking about her. The library had computers with internet access and databases for finding people. I drove there, the teddy bear riding shotgun, and spent 3 hours searching. Sarah Brennan was not an uncommon name. I found dozens of them, hundreds maybe, scattered across the country. But I had a starting point, the town where I was born, a small place called Millbrook about 2 hours north. I narrowed the search. Sarah Brennan, age 46 or 47, possibly still in or near Millbrook. I found her on the 3rd try. A Facebook profile with limited information, but a profile picture that made my heart stop. It was her, older now, her dark hair shot through with gray, lines around her eyes and mouth, but unmistakably the same person from the photographs. She was smiling in the picture, standing in front of a small house with blue shutters, a garden visible behind her. Her profile said she worked at Millbrook Elementary School. A teacher. She'd become a teacher just like me. The coincidence felt too big to be random, like maybe some part of me had always known, had always been reaching toward her even without knowing she existed. I sent her a message before I could talk myself out of it. My hands shook so badly I had to type it 3 times before I got it right. My name is Olivia. I was born Emma Sarah Brennan on October 15th, 29 years ago. I think you're my birth mother. I found your letter today, and the teddy bear, and I wanted you to know that I'm happy I'm loved, and if you're still waiting, I'd like to meet you. I hit send, and immediately wanted to take it back. What if she didn't want to meet me? What if she'd moved on, had other children, a whole life that didn't include the baby she'd given up 3 decades ago? What if I was about to ruin everything by forcing myself into her world? But it was too late. The message was sent, floating out there in the digital ether, carrying my heart with it. I drove home in a daze, carried the teddy bear up 3 flights of stairs, set it on my couch where I could see it. Then I waited. I checked my phone every 5 minutes, then every 2 minutes, then just held it in my hand, staring at the screen, willing it to light up with a response. It took 4 hours. 4 hours of pacing my apartment, of making tea I didn't drink, of starting to call Claire, and then hanging up before it rang, of wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. Then my phone chimed. A message notification. Facebook Messenger. Sarah Brennan. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. I had to read her message 3 times before the words made sense. Emma. Oh my God. Emma. I've been waiting for this message for 29 years. Yes. Yes, I want to meet you. I've always wanted to meet you. When? Where? I can come to you. I can be there tomorrow. Today. Whenever you want. I'm crying. I can't stop crying. You're alive and you're happy, and you found me. Thank you. Thank you for finding me. I sat down hard on the couch, my legs giving out. She wanted to meet me. She'd been waiting. All these years she'd been waiting, and now here I was, and it was real, it was actually happening. We arranged to meet the next day, Sunday, at a coffee shop halfway between our 2 towns. Neutral ground. A public place. Somewhere we could talk without the pressure of being in either of our homes. I barely slept that night either, my mind racing with questions, with fears, with a strange bubbling excitement that felt almost like joy. I got to the coffee shop 20 minutes early. It was a small place, locally owned, with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. It smelled like espresso and cinnamon, and soft jazz played from speakers I couldn't see. I ordered a latte I knew I wouldn't drink, and sat at a table by the window where I could watch the parking lot. She arrived exactly on time. I watched her get out of an older model Subaru, watched her stand there for a moment with her hand on the car door, taking deep breaths like she was gathering courage. She was wearing jeans and a green sweater, and her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She looked terrified. I stood up as she came through the door. Our eyes met across the coffee shop, and I saw her face crumple, saw tears start streaming down her cheeks. She crossed the distance between us in quick steps and then stopped, her hands reaching out and then pulling back, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to touch me. "Emma," she whispered. "Olivia," I said. "I go by Olivia now. Olivia." She said it carefully, like she was tasting it. "It's beautiful. You're beautiful. Oh God, look at you. You're all grown up." And then we were hugging, and she smelled like lavender and something else, something that felt like memory, even though I'd never smelled it before. She was shorter than me by a few inches, and I could feel her shaking, or maybe I was the one shaking, or maybe we both were. We sat down, both of us crying, both of us laughing at the fact that we were crying, and for a long moment we just looked at each other, taking in details, finding similarities, marveling at the strangeness of it all. "You have my eyes," she said finally, reaching across the table like she wanted to touch my face but stopping just short. "I told you in the letter. I hoped they'd stay that color." "They did," I said. "I always wondered where I got them from. Mom's eyes were brown. Dad's were hazel. Claire and Marcus both have brown eyes." She flinched slightly at the mention of my adoptive family, but recovered quickly. "Tell me about them. Tell me about your life. Tell me everything." So I did. I told her about growing up in a house full of love, about family dinners and summer vacations, and the way Dad used to read to me every night before bed. I told her about Claire, bossy and protective, and Marcus, quiet and thoughtful. I told her about Mom, about how she'd been there for every school play and soccer game and graduation, about how she'd held my hand through my first heartbreak and celebrated with me when I got my teaching degree. I told her about finding out the truth, about the will and the letter and the safety deposit box. I told her about the teddy bear, which was sitting in my car because I hadn't been able to leave it at home. She listened to all of it, tears streaming steadily down her face, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea that had long since gone cold. "I'm so glad," she said when I finally ran out of words. "I'm so glad you had that. That's all I wanted for you. A good life. A happy life. Tell me about you," I said. "What happened after? Did you finish school? Did you go to college?" She smiled a little sadly. "I did. It took me longer than most people. I worked full-time and went to community college part-time, then transferred to a state school. It took me 7 years to get my bachelor's degree in education. I became a teacher, 3rd grade. I've been at Millbrook Elementary for 18 years now. Do you have other children?" She shook her head. "I got married when I was 25. He knew about you, about the adoption. We tried for years to have kids, but it never happened. We divorced 5 years ago. It was amicable, we just wanted different things. So no other children. Just you. Always just you." The weight of that settled over me. I was her only child. The baby she'd given up was the only baby she'd ever had, and she'd spent 29 years wondering about me, waiting for me, hoping I was happy. "I brought something," she said suddenly, reaching into her purse. "I don't know if you want it, but I thought maybe." She pulled out a small photo album, the kind with a fabric cover and pages that stick to each other. "This is my life. After you. I thought you might want to see it, to know that I was okay, that I made something of myself." I took the album with trembling hands. The first page was a picture of Sarah in a cap and gown, high school graduation, her smile bright despite the sadness in her eyes. Then college photos, her looking older, more tired but determined. Her wedding day, a small ceremony in someone's backyard. Photos of her classroom, decorated with student artwork and alphabet posters. Photos of her with friends, with her ex-husband, with a small dog that she told me was named Biscuit. A whole life, lived in the shadow of the choice she'd made at 17. A good life, by the looks of it, but one that had always had a piece missing. "I'm sorry," I said, though I wasn't sure what I was apologizing for. "Don't be," she said fiercely. "Don't ever be sorry. You didn't do anything wrong. I made the choice I made, and I'd make it again. You deserved better than I could give you then. You deserved everything." We talked for 3 hours. The coffee shop filled up and emptied out around us, and we barely noticed. We talked about everything and nothing, about favorite books and foods and movies, about teaching and students and the strange satisfaction of helping kids learn to read. We talked about Mom, and Sarah cried again, thanked her for keeping her promise, for loving me the way she'd asked her to. "Can I see you again?" Sarah asked as we finally stood to leave, the sun setting outside the window. painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I don't want to intrude on your life, but I'd like to see you again. If that's okay. It's okay, I said. It's more than okay. We exchanged phone numbers, real phone numbers this time, not just Facebook messages. We hugged again at the door, and this time it felt less desperate, more solid, like the beginning of something instead of the end. I drove home as the sky darkened, stars beginning to appear overhead, and for the first time since sitting in that lawyer's office, I felt like I could breathe. The truth was out, the secrets were revealed, and the world hadn't ended. If anything, it had expanded, grown bigger to include this woman who'd given me life and then given me up, who'd waited 29 years for a message that might never have come. My phone rang as I pulled into my parking spot. Claire. I answered it this time. Where have you been? She demanded, her voice sharp with worry and something else, something that might have been hurt. We've been trying to reach you for 2 days. I know. I'm sorry. I needed time to process. Process what? That you're adopted? Olivia, that doesn't change anything. You're still our sister. Does it feel that way to you? I asked quietly. Because it doesn't feel that way to me. It feels like everything changed. She was quiet for a long moment. I could hear her breathing, could picture her in her perfect house with her perfect life, trying to figure out what to say to the sister who wasn't really her sister. Okay, she said finally. Maybe it does change things. Maybe it changes a lot of things. But that doesn't mean we stop being family. That doesn't mean I stop loving you. I met her today, I said. My birth mother. Sarah. We had coffee. Another long silence. Then what was she like? She was nice. She's a teacher like me. She's been waiting for me to find her for 29 years. Are you going to see her again? Yes. Okay. Claire's voice was small, uncertain in a way I'd never heard from her before. Okay. That's good. I'm glad. I think. I'm not trying to replace you, I said. Or Mom. Or any of you. I just need to know where I came from. I need to understand. I know. I get it. I do. It's a lot. For all of us. I know. Marcus wants to talk to you too. He's been worried. Tell him I'll call him tomorrow. I'm tired, Claire. I need to sleep. Okay. But Olivia? We love you. That's real. That's always been real. I know, I said, and realized I meant it. Whatever else was complicated, whatever else had changed, that much was true. They loved me. They'd always loved me. And I loved them. The next few weeks were strange, like living in 2 worlds at once. I saw Sarah twice more, once for lunch, and once when she invited me to her house, the one with the blue shutters from her Facebook photo. It was small but cozy, filled with books and plants and photos of students from over the years. She made dinner, lasagna that was slightly burned at the edges, and we ate it at her kitchen table, while she told me stories about my biological grandmother, who'd passed away 5 years earlier from lung cancer. Your grandmother would have loved to meet you, Sarah said, her eyes distant with memory. She felt so guilty about not being able to help me keep you. We were so poor back then. She was working at a diner and cleaning houses on the side, and we were still barely making rent. She used to say that giving you up was the right choice, but it was the choice that broke her heart. I wished I could have met her, I said, and meant it. This whole other family I'd never known existed, a grandmother who'd mourned me, a mother who'd never forgotten me. I also started seeing Claire and Marcus again, tentatively at first, meeting for coffee or lunch, navigating this new dynamic where we were family but not family, connected by love and history but not by blood. It was awkward sometimes, stilted, like we were all learning a new language and kept stumbling over the words. Marcus handled it better than Claire. He'd always been the easygoing one, the one who rolled with changes and didn't overthink things. You're still my little sister, he said one afternoon as we walked through the park near his apartment. Biology doesn't change the fact that I taught you to ride a bike and helped you with your math homework and threatened to beat up Tommy Morrison when he broke your heart in 10th grade. I laughed, remembering. You didn't actually threaten him. I thought about it really hard, though. That counts. Claire was harder. She kept trying to act like nothing had changed, kept making plans for holidays and family dinners, kept calling me multiple times a week to check in. But there was a brittleness to her now, a fragility I'd never seen before. One evening, about a month after the will reading, she showed up at my apartment unannounced, her eyes red from crying. I'm scared, she said as soon as I opened the door. I'm scared you're going to choose her over us. Over me. I pulled her inside, made her sit on the couch, the teddy bear Sarah had given me still sitting there where I'd left it that morning. Claire stared at it like it was a threat. I'm not choosing anyone, I said. It's not a competition. Isn't it though? She picked up the bear, turned it over in her hands. She gave birth to you. She's your real mother. What does that make Mom? What does that make us? Mom raised me, I said firmly. Mom was there for every skin knee and bad dream and important moment of my life. That makes her my mother. And you're my sister. You'll always be my sister. But Sarah is part of my story too, and I need to know that part. Can you understand that? She was quiet for a long time, her fingers tracing the worn fur of the teddy bear. Finally, she nodded. I'm trying. I really am. It's just hard. I know. Do you hate Mom? For not telling you? The question caught me off guard. I'd been so focused on processing the revelation, on meeting Sarah, on navigating the changed relationships with Claire and Marcus, that I hadn't really stopped to examine how I felt about Mom's choice to keep the adoption secret. No, I said slowly. I don't hate her. I'm angry maybe. Hurt that she didn't trust me with the truth. But I understand why she did it. She was scared. She loved me, and she was scared of losing me. She did love you, Claire said softly. So much. Sometimes I was jealous of how much attention she gave you. Isn't that terrible? I was jealous of my little sister. I was jealous of you too, I admitted. You always seemed so confident, so sure of yourself. So sure of your place in the family. Claire laughed, a sound that was half sob. I wasn't sure of anything. I'm still not. We sat there together, my sister and I, not quite the same as we'd been before, but not entirely different either, and slowly, carefully, started to figure out how to be family in this new configuration. Sarah and I fell into a rhythm. We texted most days, just small things, photos of our classrooms or funny things our students said. We met for coffee every other week, sometimes more often. She never pushed, never demanded more than I was willing to give, but I could feel her hunger for connection, for lost time, in every conversation. 3 months after our first meeting, she invited me to Thanksgiving dinner. Just the two of us, she said. No pressure. I know you probably have plans with your family, but if you wanted to stop by, even just for dessert, I'd love that. I did have plans with Claire and Marcus. We'd decided to host Thanksgiving together at Claire's house, the first major holiday without Mom and Dad. But I found myself wanting to see Sarah too, wanting to include her in this day that was all about family and gratitude. I talked to Claire about it first, nervous about her reaction. She surprised me. You should go, she said. Spend the morning with us, then go see her in the afternoon. She's your mother too. She deserves to have Thanksgiving with her daughter. Are you sure? No, Claire said honestly. But I'm trying, and I think it's the right thing to do. So that's what I did. I spent the morning at Claire's, helping cook a turkey that was too big for 3 people, making stuffing from Mom's recipe, setting the table with the good china that Claire had inherited. We toasted Mom and Dad with wine that was too expensive for the occasion, and we told stories about past Thanksgivings, about the year the oven broke and we had to cook everything on the grill, about the time Marcus dropped the pumpkin pie, and we ate it anyway, about Mom's insistence on going around the table and having everyone say what they were grateful for. I'm grateful for you too, I said when it was my turn, for being my family even when it's complicated. Marcus raised his glass. To complicated families. We drank to that. I left around 3, drove the 2 hours to Millbrook with a container of leftovers that Claire had insisted I bring to Sarah. The sun was low in the sky, painting everything in shades of gold and amber, and the roads were quiet, most people already settled in with their own families. Sarah's house smelled like cinnamon and apples when she opened the door. She'd made a small turkey, just a breast really, and all the traditional sides. The table was set for 2, candles lit, soft music playing from a speaker in the corner. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said, taking the container of leftovers from me. I'm so glad you did. We ate slowly, savoring the food and the conversation. She told me about Thanksgivings past, about the year she and my grandmother had volunteered at a soup kitchen because they couldn't afford their own meal, about the first Thanksgiving after she'd given me up, how she'd spent the whole day crying and wondering what I was doing, if my new family was treating me well, if I was happy. I was happy, I told her. I had a good childhood. A good life. I know. You've told me. But it helps to hear it again. After dinner, we sat on her couch with mugs of tea, and she pulled out another photo album, this one older, more worn. I want to show you something, she said. I've been debating whether to give this to you, but I think you should have it. The album was full of pictures of me. Baby pictures, toddler pictures, school photos. Pictures I recognized from my own childhood albums, but also pictures I'd never seen before. How did you get these? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Your mom sent them to me, Sarah said. Every year, on your birthday, she'd send me a letter and some photos. She'd tell me about your year, about what you were learning, what you liked, who your friends were. She never had to do that. It wasn't part of the adoption agreement. But she did it anyway, because she knew I was wondering, and she wanted me to know you were okay. I turned the pages with shaking hands. There I was at age 5, missing my front teeth, grinning at the camera. Age 8, holding up a trophy from a soccer tournament. Age 12, awkward and gangly in my first day of middle school outfit. Age 16, dressed for prom, standing between mom and dad who both looked so proud. Age 22, college graduation, my whole life ahead of me. And with each photo a letter. I pulled one out at random, dated on my 10th birthday. Sarah's handwriting on the envelope, mom's handwriting on the letter inside. Dear Sarah, it read. Olivia turned 10 today. Double digits, she keeps saying, like it's the most important milestone in the world. She's doing well in school, especially in reading and writing. Her teacher says she has a gift for storytelling. She wants to be a teacher when she grows up, just like her 3rd grade teacher, Miss Patterson, who she absolutely adores. She's kind, Sarah. That's the thing I want you to know most. She's so kind. She befriends the kids that other kids ignore. She stands up for people who are being picked on. She cries when she sees animals suffering. She has the biggest heart of anyone I've ever known, and I think she got that from you. I hope you're well. I hope life is treating you kindly. I hope you know that the gift you gave us, the gift of Olivia, is the greatest thing that's ever happened to our family. We love her so much. We'll always love her. Thank you for trusting us with her. I couldn't see the rest of the letter through my tears. Mom had done this. For 29 years, she'd sent updates to the woman who'd given birth to me, had shared my life with her, had made sure Sarah knew I was loved and happy and thriving. She'd never told me, had kept it secret just like she'd kept the adoption secret, but she'd done it anyway because it was the right thing to do. She was a good person, Sarah said softly. Your mom. She didn't have to do any of this, but she did. She kept her promise to me, and then she went beyond it. I'll always be grateful to her for that. I miss her, I said, the words coming out as a sob. I'm so angry at her for not telling me, but I miss her so much. Sarah put her arm around me, and I leaned into her, this woman who was my mother but not my mother, and cried for the woman who'd raised me, who'd loved me enough to share me even when she didn't have to, who'd kept secrets because she thought it was best, but who'd also made sure those secrets wouldn't be lost forever. We sat like that for a long time, until my tears dried up and the candles burned low, and the sky outside turned fully dark. Then Sarah made more tea, and we looked through the rest of the album, and she told me about receiving each letter, about how she'd read them over and over, about how they'd sustained her through hard times, knowing I was out there somewhere, happy and loved. I drove home late that night, the album on the passenger seat beside me, and felt something shift inside me. The anger I'd been carrying, the sense of betrayal, started to ease. Mom had made the choices she'd made out of love. Sarah had made her choice out of love. And I was the product of all that love, all those difficult decisions, all those sacrifices. I called Claire when I got home, even though it was past 11. Thank you, I said when she answered, her voice groggy with sleep. For what? For telling me to go. For understanding. For being my sister, even when it's hard. Always, she said. You're stuck with me, Olivia. Adopted or not, you're stuck with me. I'm glad, I said, and meant it. The months turned into a year. I continued to see Sarah regularly, our relationship deepening from tentative connection to genuine friendship to something that felt like family. I learned her quirks, her habits, the way she hummed when she cooked, and always kept her house too cold, and had a weakness for terrible reality TV shows. She learned mine, that I was chronically late and couldn't keep plants alive, and had a tendency to take on too much and then stress about it. We celebrated my 30th birthday together, both families. A barbecue at Claire's house where Sarah met Marcus and Claire for the first time. It was awkward at first, everyone too polite, too careful, but Marcus broke the ice by telling an embarrassing story about me from high school, and Sarah countered with a story about her own teenage years, and soon everyone was laughing and the tension eased. Claire pulled me aside at one point, while Sarah was helping Marcus with the grill. She's nice, Claire said. I can see why you like her. She is nice. She looks like you. Or you look like her. It's weird. I know. Claire was quiet for a moment, watching Sarah laugh at something Marcus said. I'm glad you found her. I'm glad you have her. And I'm glad we still have you. You'll always have me, I said. Both of you. All of you. I'm not going anywhere. Good, Claire said. Because I'd hunt you down if you tried. That fall, Sarah invited me to go through some boxes she'd kept in her attic, things from her own childhood and from the time around my birth. We spent a Saturday afternoon surrounded by old yearbooks and baby clothes and letters from friends who'd drifted away over the years. At the bottom of one box, I found a journal, the kind with a lock that any determined person could pick with a bobby pin. Sarah's name was written on the inside cover in the same round handwriting from the letter she'd left me. "You can read it if you want," she said when she saw what I'd found. "It's from that year. The year I was pregnant with you. I haven't looked at it in decades, but you should read it if you want to know what I was thinking, what I was feeling." I took it home and read it that night, cover to cover, unable to stop even when my eyes burned with exhaustion. It was raw and honest and heartbreaking, the diary of a scared teenager trying to make an impossible choice. She wrote about the father, a boy named Jake who'd been her boyfriend for 6 months before he'd panicked and broken up with her when she told him she was pregnant. She wrote about telling her mother, about the disappointment and fear and eventual acceptance. She wrote about feeling the baby, me move for the first time, about talking to me, about falling in love with someone she'd never met. And she wrote about the decision to give me up, pages and pages of agonizing back and forth, of weighing options, of trying to figure out what was best. In the end, it came down to one thing. I want her to have everything she'd written 2 weeks before I was born. I want her to have opportunities and stability, and a future that's bright and full of possibility. I can't give her that, but someone can, and so I have to let her go. I called her after I finished reading, even though it was past midnight. "Thank you for letting me read it," I said when she answered. "Was it too much?" I wasn't sure if I should have offered. "No. It was perfect. It helped me understand." "Understand what?" "That you loved me. That you always loved me. That giving me up wasn't about not wanting me. It was about wanting the best for me." She was crying. I could hear it in her voice. "That's all I've ever wanted. For you to understand that. I do now. I really do." 2 years after finding out I was adopted, I stood in a cemetery on a cold November morning, the wind cutting through my coat and making my eyes water. Mom's grave was marked with a simple headstone, her name and dates, and the words beloved wife and mother carved into the granite. I came here sometimes when I needed to think or when I missed her so much it felt like a physical ache. Today I'd brought Sarah with me. She'd asked if she could come, if it would be okay, and I'd said yes without hesitation. We stood there together, looking at the grave of the woman who'd raised me, who'd kept Sarah's secret and her own, who'd loved me enough to share my life with the woman who'd given birth to me. "Thank you," Sarah said softly, her words almost lost in the wind. "Thank you for loving her. Thank you for keeping your promise. Thank you for sending me those letters and photos. Thank you for giving me peace, even when I didn't deserve it." I took her hand, squeezed it gently. "She would have liked you," I said. "If she'd let herself know you, if she hadn't been so scared, I think you two would have been friends." "Maybe," Sarah said. "Or maybe we would have been too jealous of each other, both of us wanting to be your only mother." "You're both my mother," I said, "in different ways, and I'm lucky to have had both of you." We stood there a while longer, 2 women connected by love and loss and the complicated truth of family, and I felt something settle in my chest, some piece that had been loose and rattling finally clicking into place. I'd spent 2 years trying to figure out who I was in light of the revelation that I was adopted. Was I Olivia or Emma? Was I a Brennan or a Brennan? Did I belong to the family that raised me or the woman who gave birth to me? But standing there in that cemetery, my hand in Sarah's, Mom's grave in front of us, I finally understood. I was all of it. I was Olivia Emma Brennan, daughter of 2 mothers, sister to Claire and Marcus, teacher, friend, a person shaped by biology and choice and love in all its complicated forms. The truth had shattered my understanding of myself, had broken apart the neat story I'd told about who I was and where I came from. But in the breaking, something new had emerged, something more complex and more true. I was adopted, yes. But I was also chosen, twice over, by a teenage girl who loved me enough to let me go, and by a woman who loved me enough to make me her own. The holidays that year were different. We'd figured out a new rhythm, a new way of being family that included everyone. Christmas Eve at Claire's with Marcus and his new girlfriend, a quiet woman named Jennifer who worked in accounting and made him laugh. Christmas morning with Sarah at her house, just the 2 of us, opening presents and making pancakes and watching old movies in our pajamas. Christmas dinner back at Claire's, all of us together, Sarah included, the table crowded and loud and full of life. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward moments, Still times when Claire got that tight look around her eyes when Sarah and I shared an inside joke. Still times when I felt torn between two families, two mothers, two versions of myself. But it was real, and it was ours, and slowly, painfully, beautifully, we were building something new from the broken pieces of what had been. In the spring, Sarah asked if I wanted to meet some of my biological extended family. Her brother, my uncle, lived in California with his wife and 3 kids. Her mother's sister, my great-aunt, was in a nursing home in Florida, but still sharp as a tack. There were cousins scattered across the country, people who shared my DNA, who might have my eyes or my smile or my tendency to talk with my hands. I said yes, but slowly, one person at a time. I wasn't ready to be overwhelmed by a whole new family tree, wasn't ready to navigate all those relationships and expectations. Sarah understood. She always understood. We started with her brother, Tom. He flew out for a weekend in April, and we met for dinner at a restaurant downtown. He was tall and broad-shouldered with Sarah's eyes and a booming laugh that filled the room. He hugged me like we'd known each other forever, called me his long-lost niece, showed me pictures of his kids, and made me promise to come visit California soon. "You look just like Sarah did at your age," he said, studying my face. "It's uncanny, like looking at a ghost." "A good ghost, I hope," Sarah said, and he laughed. "The best ghost." He told me stories about their childhood, about growing up poor but happy, about their mother who'd worked herself to the bone to keep them fed and clothed. He told me about the year Sarah got pregnant, how scared she'd been, how brave. She was just a kid herself, he said. But she made the hardest choice anyone can make, and she made it out of love. I've always admired her for that. I looked at Sarah, saw her blinking back tears, and reached across the table to take her hand. "I'm glad she made that choice," I said. "I'm glad I got to have the life I had. But I'm also glad I found my way back to her." Tom raised his glass. "To family," he said, "in all its weird and wonderful forms." We drank to that. That summer, I took Sarah to Vermont, to the lake house that Claire had inherited from Mom. Claire had invited both of us, a gesture that I knew cost her something, but that she made anyway because she was trying, we were all trying, to figure out how to be family in this new configuration. The house was exactly as I remembered it, the wraparound porch with its rocking chairs, the dock stretching out into the water, the smell of pine and lake water and summer. We spent 3 days there, swimming and hiking, and sitting on the porch in the evenings watching the sun set over the water. One night, after Claire and Marcus had gone to bed, Sarah and I sat on the dock with our feet in the water, the lake lapping gently against the posts, the stars bright overhead in a way they never were in the city. "This is beautiful," Sarah said. "You're lucky you got to grow up coming here." "I am lucky," I agreed. "I've been lucky in a lot of ways." We were quiet for a while, listening to the night sounds, the crickets and frogs and the distant call of an owl. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked, giving me up. She was quiet for so long I thought maybe she wasn't going to answer. Then she said, "Every day. And never. Both at the same time. I don't understand. I regret that I didn't get to raise you," she said. "I regret missing your first steps and your first words and your first day of school. I regret not being there for skinned knees and bad dreams and all the little moments that make up a childhood. I regret that I don't have those memories, that I can't tell you stories about when you were little because I wasn't there." She paused, her voice thick with emotion. "But I don't regret the choice itself. Because you got to have this." She gestured at the house, the lake, the life I'd lived. "You got to have stability and opportunity and a family that loved you. You got to become the person you are, and I love the person you are. So no, I don't regret it. I just regret what it cost me." I leaned my head on her shoulder, felt her arm come around me. "I'm sorry you had to make that choice," I said. "I'm sorry it was so hard." "Me too," she whispered. "Me too." We sat there until the mosquitoes drove us inside, until the night grew too cold for just shorts and t-shirts, and when we finally went to bed, I felt closer to her than I ever had before. She wasn't just my birth mother anymore. She was Sarah, a woman I knew and loved and admired, a woman who'd made impossible choices and lived with the consequences and still managed to build a good life. In the fall, I started therapy. Not because anything was wrong, exactly, but because I was still processing, still trying to integrate all the pieces of my identity into something coherent. My therapist, a woman named Dr. Chun with kind eyes and a calm voice, helped me work through the complicated feelings I had about Mom's choice to keep the adoption secret, about the inequality in the will, about navigating relationships with two families. "It's okay to be angry," she told me. "It's okay to feel betrayed. Those feelings are valid. But they don't have to define your relationship with your mother's memory. I know, I said. And I'm not as angry as I was. I understand why she did it. But I wish she'd trusted me with the truth. Maybe she was planning to, Dr. Chen suggested. Maybe she was waiting for the right time, and then she got sick, and suddenly there was no more time. I'd thought about that. Mom had been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, the kind that moves fast and doesn't leave much room for long conversations or careful revelations. Maybe she'd always planned to tell me someday. Maybe someday just came too soon. Or maybe she never would have told me. Maybe I would have lived my whole life not knowing, and when she died, the secret would have died with her. The thought made me sad in a way I couldn't quite articulate. How do you feel about your relationship with Sarah now? Dr. Chen asked. Good, I said. Really good. She's become one of my favorite people. We text almost every day. We see each other at least twice a month. She came to my school's open house last week and met my students. And your relationship with Claire and Marcus? Better. It was rocky for a while. Claire especially had a hard time with it. But we're finding our way. We're still family. We're just figuring out what that means now. Dr. Chen smiled. It sounds like you're doing the work. All of you. That's not easy. It's not, I agreed. But it's worth it. By the time the second anniversary of Mom's death rolled around, I felt like I'd finally found my footing. The grief was still there, would probably always be there, but it had softened around the edges, become something I could carry without it crushing me. We gathered at the cemetery again, all of us this time. Claire and Marcus and Sarah and me, standing around Mom's grave in the November cold, each of us lost in our own thoughts and memories. Claire had brought flowers, white roses that Mom had always loved. Marcus had brought a bottle of wine, the expensive kind Mom used to save for special occasions. Sarah had brought a letter, sealed in an envelope, which she placed gently on the grave. Thank you, she said simply. For everything. We stood there in silence for a while, and then Claire did something unexpected. She reached out and took Sarah's hand. Then she took mine. Marcus took my other hand, and we stood there in a circle around Mom's grave, connected by love and loss and the complicated truth of family. I think she'd be happy, Claire said quietly, that we're all here together, that we're trying. I think so too, I said. We went to dinner after, all four of us, to the Italian restaurant that had been Mom's favorite. We ordered too much food and told stories about Mom, about her quirks and her kindness and the way she'd loved fiercely and completely. Sarah listened to all of it, laughing in the right places, crying in others, and I realized that in some strange way, she was grieving too. Grieving the woman who'd kept her promise, who'd sent those letters and photos, who'd made it possible for this moment to exist. As we were leaving, Claire pulled me aside. I've been thinking, she said, about the house. The one in Vermont. Okay, I said cautiously. It should be yours too. Not legally, I mean Mom left it to me and that's fine. But it should be a place you can go whenever you want. You and Sarah both. It's a family house. And your family. My eyes filled with tears. Thank you, I said. That means a lot. She hugged me, tight and fierce. You're my sister, she said. Nothing changes that. Not biology, not adoption, not anything. You're stuck with me forever. I'm glad, I said into her shoulder. I'm so glad. 3 years after finding out I was adopted, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Is this Olivia? A man's voice, uncertain, nervous. Yes. Who's this? My name is Jake Morrison. I don't know if Sarah told you about me, but I'm your biological father. The world tilted. I sat down hard on my couch, the phone pressed to my ear, my heart hammering in my chest. How did you get my number? Sarah gave it to me. I reached out to her a few months ago. I've been trying to work up the courage to call you ever since. I didn't know what to say. Sarah had mentioned him, the boy who'd gotten her pregnant and then disappeared, but she'd never suggested he might want to meet me. I'd assumed he was long gone, living his own life, uninterested in the daughter he'd never known. Why now? I finally asked. It's been 32 years. I know it's been forever. I was a coward back then. I was 17 and scared, and I ran away from the hardest thing I'd ever faced. I've regretted it every day since. He paused, and I could hear him breathing, could hear the emotion in his voice. I got married 10 years ago. My wife and I have 2 kids, a boy and a girl. And every time I look at them, I think about you, about the daughter I abandoned, about how I never even tried to be there for you, or for Sarah. I still didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. I'm not asking for anything, he continued. I don't expect you to want a relationship with me. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for not being there, for not being the father you deserved. And I wanted you to know that I've thought about you. All these years, I've thought about you and wondered if you were okay, if you were happy, if you hated me. I don't hate you, I said, surprising myself. I don't really feel anything about you. You're just a stranger who happens to share my DNA. I heard him take a shaky breath. That's fair. That's more than fair. We were quiet for a moment. Then I said, do you want to meet me? Only if you want to meet me. I don't want to intrude on your life. I thought about it. I'd spent 3 years building relationships with Sarah, with my extended biological family on her side. Did I want to add another complication, another person to navigate, another piece of my origin story to integrate? But I was also curious. This man was half the reason I existed. His DNA was mixed with Sarah's to create me. And he'd called, had apologized, had spent 32 years thinking about the daughter he'd abandoned. Maybe that counted for something. Okay, I said. Let's meet. We met 2 weeks later at the same coffee shop where I'd first met Sarah. He was tall and thin with graying hair and eyes that were a different shade of blue than mine, but the same shape. He was nervous, his hands shaking as he ordered coffee, his voice uncertain as he thanked the barista. We sat at the same table by the window, and for a long moment we just looked at each other, two strangers connected by biology and nothing else. You look like Sarah, he said finally. But you have my nose. And my hands. See? He held up his hands, long-fingered and narrow, exactly like mine. I looked at my own hands, seeing them differently now. I'd always thought I had Mom's hands, but no, these were Jake's hands, passed down through DNA, a physical reminder of where I came from. Tell me about your life, I said. Your wife. Your kids. So he did. He told me about meeting his wife, a woman named Rachel, at a work conference. About their wedding, small and intimate, just family and close friends. About their son, Tyler, who was 8 and obsessed with dinosaurs. About their daughter, Mia, who was 5 and wanted to be a ballerina. He showed me pictures on his phone, and I studied the faces of these half-siblings I'd never known existed, looking for similarities, for connections. Do they know about me? I asked. Yes. Rachel knows everything. I told her about you before we got married. I didn't want to start our life together with secrets. And we told the kids last year, when I decided I wanted to try to find you. They're excited to meet you, if you ever want to meet them. I don't know, I said honestly. This is a lot. I'm still figuring out my relationship with Sarah and with my adoptive family. I don't know if I have room for more. He nodded, looking sad but understanding. I get it. Like I said, I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted to meet you. To tell you I'm sorry. To let you know that you have a father out there, even if I don't deserve that title. We talked for another hour. He told me about his own childhood, about growing up in a strict religious household where sex before marriage was the ultimate sin. He told me about the panic he'd felt when Sarah told him she was pregnant, the fear of disappointing his parents, the shame that had driven him to break up with her and pretend it had never happened. I was a coward, he said again. I let fear control me, and Sarah paid the price. You paid the price. I can't undo that. But I want you to know that I'm not that scared kid anymore. I've grown up. I've learned. And if you ever want me in your life, in any capacity, I'm here. I'll think about it, I said. That's all I can ask. I told Sarah about the meeting that night. She was quiet for a long time after I finished. How do you feel about it? She finally asked. I don't know. Confused. Curious. A little angry, maybe, that he gets to just show up now after 32 years and ask for forgiveness. You don't have to forgive him, Sarah said. You don't owe him anything. Do you forgive him? She sighed. I did a long time ago. I had to for my own peace of mind. Carrying that anger around was exhausting. But forgiveness doesn't mean I forgot what he did. It doesn't mean I think it was okay. Do you want me to have a relationship with him? That's not my decision to make, Olivia. That's yours. But I will say this. He's not the same person he was at 17. None of us are. People grow. People change. Maybe he deserves a chance to prove that he's changed. I thought about that for days, weeks. I talked about it in therapy. I talked about it with Claire and Marcus, who had their own opinions. Claire thought I should tell him to get lost, that he didn't deserve a place in my life after abandoning me. Marcus thought I should at least give him a chance, that everyone deserved the opportunity to make amends. In the end, I decided to take it slow. I agreed to meet Jake again, and then again. We started texting occasionally, just small things, nothing deep. He sent me pictures of his kids, and I sent him pictures of my classroom. Slowly, carefully, We started to build something that wasn't quite a relationship, but wasn't nothing either. 6 months after our first meeting, I agreed to meet his family. Rachel was warm and welcoming, the kind of person who hugs you like you're already family. Tyler was shy at first, but warmed up when I told him I loved dinosaurs too. Mia wanted to show me her ballet moves and insisted I watch her perform her entire recital routine in the living room. "You're our sister," Mia said matter-of-factly when she finished, slightly out of breath. "Daddy said so." "Half-sister," Tyler corrected. "We only share one parent." "Still counts," Mia insisted. I looked at Jake, saw the hope and fear in his eyes, and felt something shift in my chest. These kids, they were innocent in all of this. They hadn't done anything wrong. And they were excited to know me, to have a big sister, to expand their understanding of family. "Still counts," I agreed, and Mia beamed. I didn't see them often. They lived 3 hours away, and I had my own life, my own complicated web of relationships to maintain. But we stayed in touch. We got together every few months. And slowly, painfully, I started to think of Jake not as the man who'd abandoned me, but as a person who'd made a terrible mistake and was trying to make up for it. It wasn't forgiveness, not exactly. But it was something. It was a door left open instead of slammed shut. It was the possibility of something more, someday, if we both kept working at it. For years after finding out I was adopted, I stood in front of my classroom on the first day of school, looking at 25 eager faces, and introduced myself the way I always did. "My name is Miss Brennan," I said, "and I'm so excited to be your teacher this year." But in my head, I added the rest. "My name is Olivia Emma Brennan. I'm the daughter of 2 mothers, the sister of 2 siblings and 2 half-siblings, the product of love and loss and impossible choices. I'm adopted and biological, chosen and given up, a teacher like both my mothers, a person shaped by everyone who's loved me and everyone who's let me go. I'm all of it, and I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be." That afternoon, after the students had gone home and the classroom was quiet, I pulled out my phone and sent a group text to Sarah, Claire, and Marcus. "First day done. It was great. Love you all." The responses came quickly. Sarah sent a heart emoji and a message saying she was proud of me. Marcus sent a gif of someone celebrating. Claire sent a long message about how I was going to be the best teacher those kids ever had and how lucky they were to have me. I smiled, put my phone away, and started preparing for the next day. Outside, the late summer sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Somewhere Mom was watching, I like to think. Somewhere, she was proud of the person I'd become, the family I'd built from the broken pieces of the truth she'd left behind. The inequality in the will had seemed like a betrayal at first, like proof that I wasn't really part of the family. But I understood now. The house and the money, those were just things. What Mom had given me was so much more. She'd given me the truth. She'd given me Sarah. She'd given me the chance to know where I came from and to choose who I wanted to be. And in the end, that was worth more than any inheritance.